I'm Erin.
I'm Ryan, and this is a video about our recent adventure on the Wonderland Trail around Mount Rainier in Washington.
At the end of this video, we're going to go over some of the things that we learned and some advice we have for those who might be interested in hiking this trail.
Good morning.
Day two.
Day two. We just finished our first 2,000 footer of 3 today. And now we're on our way back down. Saw an awesome little lake and had some breakfast.
Yep. And we're ending at Mouch Lake today, which is on top of our third 2,000 foot climb. And we heard there's a lake to swim in there, so we're pretty excited.
Yeah.
But check out this view behind us. It's day 4. We just climbed up to about 7,000 feet, and it is absolutely beautiful up here. This is the portion from, what is it called?
Summerland.
Yes, Summerland to Indian Bar. We're hiking a little past Indian Bar and starting a little before Summerland, but this section is absolutely beautiful. Glaciers and lakes and meadows and views of Mount Rainier. So the Wonderland Trail goes around Mount Rainier, and most people do it, and I think they recommend like 9 to 12 days. We attempted to do it in 5, and it was definitely very hard. Doable, but very hard. I would probably recommend for people who like to go backpacking and are in reasonable shape, probably 7 to 8 days would probably be more fun.
So the permit system is a little unique. About 70% of the reservations for the year are done online, and that opens in the beginning of March and it goes through September, but they usually sell out by mid to early April. And that leaves the last 30% for first come, first served, show up to a ranger station and try and get a permit the day of.
So there's 18 trailside camps along the Wonderland Trail. So those fill up pretty fast, especially at the cooler campsites. And we also would recommend going to the White River Ranger Station because that's the one that opens the earliest. I think it opens at, was it 6 o'clock? 7 o'clock? I can't remember.
Something like that.
Opens pretty early, so try to get there before they open and be the first in line to get your permit if you're doing first come, first serve. And you have to pay a $20 fee. So the link at the bottom of this page, we'll also put it in the comments, but if you click on that link, it's pretty self-explanatory. It'll take you through. You have to pay a $20 fee just for like a backcountry pass, and then you'll have to buy your national parks pass, which is $30 for a 7-day pass. And if you're gonna just do a day hike, I would suggest doing Summerland to Indian Bar. That was probably the prettiest part of the hike, but also the most busy.
So to get to the Wonderland Trail, we flew in and out of Seattle. There was a lot of traffic in Seattle. Neither of us had been there before, but it was more than what we had expected or really planned for. So if you haven't been there, just definitely plan on around the rush hour times, or even just not during the rush hour times. There's a ton of traffic getting in and out of that town. Once you get to the national park itself, there's no cell service that is really reliable. I have Verizon, Aaron has AT&T, neither one of us had cell service for much of the entire week. We used a rental car through Turo, which is where you rent a car from an individual that's not using their car and they want to rent it out. And it ended up saving us a couple $100. And then lastly, parking. Aaron talked about that, but we parked at Longmire. They have a very large parking lot, and we were able to leave it there for the whole week without any issues.
So some advice that we have before you go, I mean, try to book in advance if you can. If you know that this is something you want to do and you can plan it a year ahead of time, or I guess 6 months ahead of time, get your permits in March. If it's booked up, you can definitely still try and go into the office early in the morning as long as you're flexible and have plenty of time. Always check the weather before you go. For us, it was a really, really hot week. So that kind of led to some interesting things at the park. The glaciers were melting extra fast, and so the water levels were really high, which washed out some of the bridges. There was one guy, he said that he crawled across the bridge, and we had to kind of scoot our way across because it was a little bit scary. And then definitely go through your gear, make sure you're all set with that. We have a gear list if you want to look through what we packed. That was a pretty sufficient list. I would probably bring like a puffy coat, even if you're going in the summer, because you'll go through snow and camps are kind of up high. So you might want just a coat for the night. But for the most part, I mean, I was comfortable wearing shorts and a tank top. And it was August when we went.
One of the things we didn't bring was a GPS. I think in hindsight we would recommend bringing a GPS just because there were far fewer people on the trail than we were expecting. And the other side of it is it was more remote than we were expecting as well. There weren't a whole lot of places that you could find a road along that trail. So if we had gotten hurt or if someone else had gotten hurt, getting help would have been pretty difficult without having some kind of GPS locator that you could send. Either a Garmin inReach or a spot locator or whatever works for you.
And as for a map, we used GutHook. It's an app. I think to download the app, it's like $50 or something. It's kind of pricey, but it's pretty cool. It shows you an elevation profile, which I usually keep it on, and it shows you like where you are, how far you've gone, how much further to the top of the mountain is usually the one that I'm looking at all the time. And then how far to the next water source and all that kind of stuff. And it works in airplane mode. So you just pre-download the map and then you can just use it on your phone and it's great. But if you don't have that, they have tons of maps you can use. The trail is really well marked. I don't think it would be a problem at all. Getting lost is probably not gonna happen. Food caches. So we really underpacked on food. Our last day we were like starving when we got in. So I would highly recommend dropping off some food at a couple of the ranger stations along the way. I think online it'll tell you which ones will let you do that. There's also a restaurant at Longmire, which you can kind of work with that too, to have a really big meal halfway through your hike or at the beginning or the end like we did. Lastly, there were a few spots that were kind of dangerous on the trail. Like I had mentioned, the bridge, and then a few spots where it was kind of washed out. So there was a lot of loose gravel really up high. It was really scary getting across that and trying not to fall. And also some really slippery spots in the snow where you could see, there's one spot in particular where we were trying to cross and you could just see that someone like right before us had slipped and fallen, slipped and fell all the way down the side of the mountain. So that was kind of scary. I think that's about all we have. So if you have any questions, you can leave us a comment in the bottom of this video and we'll be sure to check it and answer any questions that you have. Best of luck on your hike, and that's all.